My friends, if you don't keep up with all the latest speedrunning news, and I certainly don't blame you for that, you might not know that breaking earlier this week, a truly remarkable classic speedrun was discovered to be fake and spliced. Yes, ExoSDA's incredible Super Meat Boy 90% run of 1839 was not only the world record set in August 2012, but was considered the classic Super Meat Boy run to this day, with countless people picking up the speed game after being inspired by this now disgraced run. In my recent fireside chat about the history of faked runs in the Elite community, I break it down that there are really two kinds of spliced or fake speedruns. The first type is more of a statement splice, maybe done out of anger or rage or to prove a point about weak proof standards, but usually revealed to be a ruse within a day or two. Obviously problematic, but the second kind, and the far more egregious kind, is one done for the glory of being hailed as the one true champion of your speed game, the long con. A speedrun spliced well enough to go undetected and touted as the real deal, while others competing behind it struggle to match the feat of someone else who had the help of video editing. These splices are literally done so you can get to the top without actually achieving the real speedrun that deserves it. And given that Exo's 1839 remained on the top of the Super Meat Boy leaderboard for about a year and a half and wasn't outed until this week, it was definitely that second kind. Exo faked a run and undeservedly took all the glory of being the best Super Meat Boy runner for years to come. So you might be wondering, how Goose? Just how Goose was this run outed, without a doubt, to be spliced? So the key here that the moderators figured out is at the end of each level in Super Meat Boy, there's this little girl in the bottom left corner called the Bandage Girl, and she always works the same way in the same cycles. People play the game at 60 frames per second, so her arms move on a 40 frame cycle. At the end of the level, when she's loading, her arms will be up for 20 frames, and then down for 20 frames. And so these always add up consistently no matter what. Some people record at 30 frames per second, so the values are halved. Keep that in mind. The guys go on to say that basically, if you're ever watching a speedrun and you get to the end of a level, and her arms go up for, say, 10 frames in a 60 frame per second environment, then when you start the next level, her arms will stay up for the next 10 frames, completing the 20 frame cycle there. If her arms go up 10 frames, and then to start the next level, her arms are down, or her arms are up for fewer or more than 10 frames, then that's probably a fake speedrun. Obviously, there's some recording discrepancies for 1 or 2 frames. These runs, this specific run by ExoSDA was not like that. It was an egregious error, clearly a splice. And there was another run by a gentleman named Hank Yu. Also, it was a second place, 90% time. That run also was determined to be spliced by these guys. So they came out with this document detailing all of this information, released it to the public, and the runs have been dealt with accordingly. Take a look at the document, I'll put it in the description. Obviously, it's much more knowledgeable than I am about the game. These guys know their stuff, and it's really well put together, really easy to read. Definitely recommend taking a look yourself. So thankfully, the Super Meat Boy moderators have decided that now the Bandage Girl and her autosave animation must be visible in all submitted attempts. A great step and a sensible precaution to take in the light of this revelation. I really have to commend how the Super Meat Boy moderators handled this situation. Their transparency and formality releasing this document is something other communities should remember when facing a similar problem. Obviously, it's a huge shame that this happened, and it will continue to happen in speedrunning, but this all reminds me of other issues in the wider community. A couple weeks ago, the Super Mario 64 community decided it was finally time to set proof quality standards to encourage a healthy, competitive speedrun environment. They decided that for runs of a certain rank to be allowed on their leaderboards, you would need direct captured proof and not webcammed or cell phone camera footage. Of course, this being speedrunning, people freaked the fuck out, claiming this is exclusive and a massive barrier to entry into an already niche community. But is it? Let's take a look. Imagine if ExoSDA's run was recorded on webcam from a CRT. I know you're thinking, Goose, why would anyone record a PC game with a webcam from afar? Well, maybe they say they don't want to lag their gaming PC with recording software, and they want to use an old CRT monitor for the lowest latency. That's an excuse that would surely be accepted by many in favor of not excluding anyone. Look at this footage and tell me just how would the moderators of Super Meat Boy been able to discover that the frame count on Little Bandage Girl doesn't add up? It'd be impossible. And maybe if Exo had the foresight to play his splice through a CRT with shoddily recorded footage, it would have gone undetected forever. I don't know what rules were in place when he did the run in 2012. Maybe that would have been allowed, maybe not, but that kind of thing is still allowed in many communities around speedrunning. The worse the video quality of a world record speedrun, the harder it is to use techniques like those employed by the Super Meat Boy moderator team to detect a fake run. Beloved speedrunner I Ate Your Pie tweeted about the Super Mario 64 webcam footage ban. Way to keep people out of your game. Acting like spending some petty cash on your hobby is unforgivable. I mean, cell phones and webcams are literally more expensive. Some would argue that, well, everyone already has a cell phone or webcam, so allowing this is more accessible. But if we're talking about someone who is too poor to buy a $20 capture card, they probably don't have the 64GB, 45 terapixel iPhone X to record their TV in perfectly clear, viewable quality. They'd rather use, their cheapo 8GB Amazon Blue Advanced discount phone in shoddy, unfocused 25 FPS, which isn't perfectly viewable anyways and can't even store a 1 hour long speedrun video. It's ridiculous. If you can afford a webcam or a cell phone, which can take perfectly viewable video of a TV screen, you can afford another $20 on a capture card. But tell me, what keeps more people out of a speed game? Having to spend $20 on a capture card? Or the possibility that a huge number of speedruns you're admiring, looking up to, learning from, or competing with are completely fake just because of a lack of quality control from the game's rules and moderators. How many people are going to be excluded from speedrunning Super Meat Boy because they can't capture the Bandage Girl's autosave frames in all their glory? Is that more or fewer people that are going to not want to play a game that has no failsafes or rules preventing cheating? I mean, how many people out of the hundreds of thousands of people who watch AGDQ would still watch it if the game feed was instead recorded using a webcam? It seems to me that perhaps allowing webcam runs is far more exclusive than the mild and fair rules of disallowing them above a certain skill point. But Pie's tweet isn't the only sanctimonious thought on exclusivity or rules in speedrunning from a well-known speedrunner. Regarding another matter where I stated my views that I thought it was disrespectful when runners choose to not post their world record speedruns on the leaderboards, Demon9 reminds us that speedrunning is only a hobby, and people can perform it any way they prefer. A thought very well liked and echoed by numerous others. If this is true across all of speedrunning, however, then what about Exo, who clearly preferred to participate in speedrunning by splicing runs? What of that? If you take their creed on the matter and apply it universally, cheating would be more than fine. After being asked about this discrepancy though, if people performing speedrunning the way they want includes allowing them to cheat, Demon later said, speedrunning being a hobby doesn't mean that we can let cheaters run around and have no rules, which directly contradicts his original viewpoint of letting people do whatever they want. You can't have it both ways. Either you have rules or you don't. You literally can't let everyone do what they want, but also crack down on cheating. That's exactly why, not just in speedrunning, but just law in the world in general, you can't let everyone do what they want, because some people will always want to do things that are harmful or exploitative to the people around them. And I'm not picking on Demon here. I actually really like the guy. I gave him my Twitch Prime subscription earlier this year when he helped me out to find a super hidden shrine in Breath of the Wild Hebra region. What a crazy shrine that was. But his tweets are just a perfect example of the hypocritical ideology and wish to live in a fantasy land that we see from most of the speedrun mass. I'm not picking on Pi or any of these other tweets either. I could literally have picked from hundreds of nearly identical tweets and thoughts on the matter. These are just the poignant examples that stuck out to me while having these conversations. Examples that seem to be applauded near universally among speedrun enthusiasts. Examples of the exact same pervasive and destructive ideology I've seen in speedrunning for over a decade, and one that needs to be called out. There are thousands, literally hundreds of thousands of people who watched Exo's run and admired it as a great speedrun. Those are the stakes here. People don't get it. Speedrunning isn't just a niche little hobby that should remain like an unregulated Wild West. There are hundreds of thousands, millions of people who admire and appreciate speedrunning. Whether you want to do it as a hobby, career, both, or somewhere in between, don't you think we owe a little bit of responsibility or integrity to those who enjoy what we do? If we let people participate in the hobby however they want, you will see more cheating and splice runs. And yes, one bad apple ruins the bunch. You can't just say, well, sure, Goose, you and others can choose to make speedrunning presentable and interesting to the masses, but you can't force this on others. Because if others are running around cheating or doing other questionable things, it paints us all badly. It paints us all with the same brush. And if we refuse to make rules out of fear of excluding people, the irony is that this will exclude both the masses of casual viewers who are trying to grasp some sort of structure or understanding in an already chaotic world, and also exclude the people who have the most to contribute to the community. What it comes down to is you have too many people with weak ideologies about speedrunning. Too many people who are too afraid to exclude anyone or upset anybody, and they're completely against imposing rules or fail-safes or any standards that would help to prevent faked runs from happening. People for some reason seem to think that speedrunning should be a land of inclusivity and rainbows and unicorns, and that we should all hold hands and get along together and just wish our problems away. The reality is when you do that, you get stuff like this. You get faked runs. When you let people speedrun and participate the way they want to, there is nothing preventing them from cheating or making spliced runs or posting fake times. So this is why it's so important that we need rules, structure, and punitive measures when someone steps out of bounds. Thankfully, the Super Meat Boy community actually agrees, which is really great. Their handling of the situation has been outstanding, but there are still legions of people who participate in the speedrunning community who don't agree. So what do you guys think? Does ExoSDA deserve to be banned permanently from speedrun.com, SDA, GDQ, Twitch, Twitter, exiled and cast away forever to the Gulag Archipelago? Or does he deserve to be forgiven because, well, this is how he wants to speedrun, so we just let it be and not even remove the fake time? Whatever. Okay, these are clearly the two extremes, but opinion does vary wildly within the speedrun community. So let me know what you think in the comments or on Twitter. Thank you all for watching and listening to me talk about this. These are things I really feel strongly about in the community, so it's really good to get it all out there. I'd like to start making some more videos like this whenever there's a hot topic of discussion in the speedrun world. So let me know if you liked it, or if it was a little bit too hot to handle. Thanks everyone for following on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Patreon. Stay true, and I'll see you in the next stream or video.